So if you wanted to find out about membership, it's in there.
Yeah, I've got the visitor pass. Oh, yes ma'am, I do.
Yeah.
Oh, glory.
I thought we were going to see the wall.
Oh, let me just
Oh, do it again, sorry. 50.
508.
Yeah,
2439. And then it's right more about it.
yeah. But I've got 9 there for some
It
reason.
just doesn't.
3. So that's £7 altogether, please.
Okay, sorry about that.
Not at all. It's, I didn't want to appear in your movie.
Sorry.
This is the only book that we've got that's actually all about Chesters.
Do it again, make sure. Fourteen, 16, 19,
I was talking to the boy outside. I feel like don't stop me.
But then again, you say, we might have to have him again to go away again.
Every day you read the paper where somebody's been killed.
There we go, ladies and gents. Thanks very much for being so prompt. Sorry about the little shower that we had before and quite a strong wind. But I think on the whole we've got away with it weather-wise. You know, could have been a lot worse. So I hope you enjoyed your look around the fort and you know, the tour that we were able to see in the time that we had. So for those of you who didn't manage to get around, if you've got any questions, I'm quite happy to sit and talk with you about it. And now we're going to head off towards one of the viewpoints here. I know the one I'd like to get to, but it just depends if there's another coach. And there's a few coaches buzzing around here at the moment. So we're going to Steel Rig, I hope. On the way, we're going to continue and join the military road. We will be going past one of the views of what was the iconic image of Hadrian's Wall. And it was a beautiful sycamore tree, and it was in Sycamore Gap. And I'm sorry to say that whoever was cut down overnight last Wednesday. So I was there on Tuesday with people and we saw it, and on Wednesday night it was cut down overnight. So it's awful, honestly. The depth of feeling locally here and nationally and internationally as well. People are furious. So we're waiting to see what's coming out of it. 2 people have been arrested, but we do not have that iconic image for you anymore. So I will show you where it is. Now, you always used to tell people about it because sometimes it's called Sycamore Gap. There's a lovely sycamore tree, amazing location in the gap where the wall's rising up and down the volcanic ridges, and this beautiful tree, and then and then I wonder what that was for. this beautiful image. And of course it was sometimes called Robin Hood's tree, because Kevin Costner filmed Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves there. So it was a common question. The entrance on the left there, that's the entrance into Chester's mansion. That was the Clayton family home. John Clayton, the man who first excavated there. The beautiful house, the estate was sold for $6.5 million a few years ago. This was their stable block here on the right. Yeah, I know. Of course, it's now luxury holiday homes. So glance left, low level, slightly back left, you might just see the front of the house. And what the young family, it's quite a young family who bought it a few years ago, very wealthy from wherever, I don't know. £6.5 million they paid for the estate, and then they converted the stable block. It's now luxury holiday accommodation, not quite finished yet. And then all of the estate workers, cottages, they have extended them. They now make them holiday accommodation, so they're making money from that. And they bought a hotel up the hill here on the right hand side, Walwick Hall. We're headed for the little farming village of Walwick. Wick on the end of a place name, it's an old English word, means a farm settlement. And so it's the farm settlement by the wall, Walwick. There's a sign there on the left. The old cottages here, they're all built of Roman stones. The big giveaway is this house on the right hand side here, you see, which has just recently been repointed. You can nearly recognise all the stones in it, where they've come from. So Walwick village here, the farming village, and Walwick Hall in ahead here to the right here. It's a boutique hotel now. This young family who got it, they've opened that up. It's very expensive, lovely place. Never had a chance to go yet, but I'm not sure I can afford it anyway. So if you look in to the right there, look back to the right, you'll see it. Very, very nice. Country house hotel, beautiful place.
Great big stone stack.
So we're back on the military road, we're heading west, and very, very shortly we will just touch on the southern fringes of the Northumberland National Park. Now Northumberland, this big county I mentioned earlier, is about 2,000 square miles now, is Northumberland, fifth biggest county in the country, but 20% of it is the Northumberland National Park, so 400 square miles of national park have we got. The southern fringe, the boundary is just a little way ahead on the right. There's a tiny boundary sign down on the right. They couldn't have put a smaller sign there if they tried, but you might just see it down on the right hand side. So we're right on the southern fringes of the Northumberland National Park. We're just entering the boundary now. And as we climb up here, in a minute, over to our right, once we get by the trees on our right hand side, the plantations on the left have all been cut down very recently, but the ones on the right, once we get past them, look down in the field to the right. This is where you will see very quickly the evidence of the north ditch. You'll spot it straight away. That's down to the right. The south ditch, therefore, is behind the hedge line on our left. But then beyond that, in the next fields, you'll see some sections of the frontier wall. So here, just past the woodland, look to the right, down in the field, down there, you'll see the ditch works of the north ditch. They're quite apparent there. So the south ditch is behind these hedges on the left. But now look ahead to the right, and you'll see some sections of wall coming down the hill, but look to the right of the nearest bit to us. This is where you can see a very clear V shape of the original north ditch. Originally 30 feet wide, 20 feet deep. You can still see it there. And the sections of wall, well, on our right there, the structure there where there's somebody standing admiring it and taking pictures, that's the base of one of the lookout towers, the turrets, and that would be 34 feet high on the 21 feet high wall.
That's what we've got to say. Victorian.
Now, a few people have been talking to me about the geology and the stonework, etc., stone quarrying. I'll talk about that a little bit later. The natural geology here is limestone, so most of the stone is limestone, but there's a lot of volcanic interference here, and so this bend just ahead of us, this is called Limestone Corner, and as we get round it, if you look to the left, you'll see this is a location where the Roman engineers building this structure, trying to cut through the south ditch on our left, had to cut through solid volcanic rock. There's a lot of volcanic interference here. So look to the left here and you'll see what I mean. Just here on our left where they're trying to dig the ditch through solid rock like that. Then look ahead and you can see the line of the ditch ahead to the left. Back to the right beyond the farm wall is the north ditch, but watch your neck if you do try and look back. So we got the north ditch immediately on our right, we got the south ditch almost immediately on our left. So where's the wall? It's under this road, and that south ditch to the left is actually much nearer to the wall here than anywhere else along the whole line of the frontier. And I think the reason for that is the landscape, where they realised the solid rocks they were having to cut through, so they moved the ditch nearer the wall itself. Now as we continue along here, then ahead on the left in a minute is a site, another fort site, which is called Brockalisha. Now Brockalisha, Brock the Badger, there's a sign on the left. Brockalisha, that's the Roman name for the site. It means the place of the badgers. Brock the Badger, we use that word. Brockalisha, that's the Latin word for the place of the badgers. So the unexcavated fort, you see the mounds in the ground ahead on the left. And this is not yet excavated, perhaps sometime in the future, who knows. But what has been found here and excavated here a long time ago, mind, is down in the little valley to our left. This is a temple to the god Mithras. Now if you look down the valley to the left, get your eyes on two little trees and then start looking to the left of the trees, and then I'm hoping there's a fence line. There's the little trees down there, look left. I'm hoping there'll be some people there. No, but they're not. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what all the cars are there for. So we'll see. So the temple to Mithras was found by chance, going back a long time, it's more than 100 years ago now, after a very, very dry summer. The farmer noticed stones sticking up above the ground, so he called in the archaeologists from Newcastle University, and they came along, they dug them out, they found they were altar stones dedicated to the god Mithras. So they took them to Newcastle University, where they copied them. They left the originals in Newcastle University. They are now in the Great North Museum, the Hancock in Newcastle, and they brought the copies back here. They then dug the temple site out and they placed the stones in the temple where they would have been originally. In the Great North Museum they constructed a temple to Mithras, and there you can go and listen to the ceremonies, the services, and look at the original altar stones and understand all about the cult of Mithras. Mithras was a Persian god, you see. The Romans were quite open about their religion, and they were quite happy to take a pagan god from some other part of the world and Romanize them. Mithras was one of these. He came to be worshipped by Roman officers, and so it was very much a cult of Mithras. And he was the guy who in legend killed the evil bull in the darkness of the cave and brought light out of the cave. And so he was the god of light and life and truth. And so when temples were constructed for worship of him, they were always constructed down underground to simulate a cave situation. This was no different here. So it's a marvellous sight, just as the original altar stones are wonderful too. Now as we continue along here, we're reaching a section of the wall where there's a very important change point in the direction of the frontier wall. This road, the military road, in a minute it's going to dip down and bend slightly to the left. The Roman military engineers building the frontier, they actually began to steer away up to the right, up the hills ahead to the right, which are volcanic ridges, and they decided to follow the volcanic ridges for additional defence. It's a natural volcanic fault called the Great Windsill. Starts in Cumbria, cuts across through Teesdale, through Weardale to here, and the Roman engineers followed. So Wade's soldiers, they couldn't be bothered to go up the steep hill to get stone for the foundations. They simply carried on with the military road. They used rubble stone from the fields around them. Now, look here, the road is going to dip slightly now. The south ditch is on our left, look. The north ditch is way over to the right there. So we're twisting, dipping down. We are now about to drive through the south ditch as we are now, and look, now it's on your right. So, Wade soldiers just carrying on with the military road using rubble stone from the surrounding fields. What that means is, from this point onwards, from the high hills ahead of us to the right, are the best surviving sections of the frontier war. But even so, you know, if the century stone was robbed out, there's farmhouses like the one up there ahead to the right, all built of Roman stones. Keep an eye on the ridges to our right ahead of us. There's a lot of walkers. We have the National Walking Trail, Hadrian's Wall Path. I haven't seen many people out walking today, but there will be some around, and you may well see people walking up on the ridge next to the wall. Just past the trees ahead up to the right, you can see the wall up and down on the edge of the ridge there. Quite difficult to see from here, but the volcanic ridges are anything from 50 to 150 feet sheer drop over the edge of those ridges, and it's a fantastic location. Now, quarrying, cutting and quarrying stones. Some people asking me about that. All the work done by legionary soldiers, you know, no slaves. Now, volcanic interference in these locations, and there's a good example ahead on the left. The local limestone, this is a ridge of stone on our left. It was pushed up by volcanic activity. So the Roman engineers didn't always have to dig deep quarries to mine the stone. So what they did, these places and other places like it, they cut off those stone ridges, carted the stone up the hill to the right to build the frontier system. But as it happens, there is a quarry here as well. You'll see the entrance to it on the left in a minute. Quarries are brilliant places, I love them. There's lots of them along the line of the wall, and if you know where they are and what's contained, you can sometimes see names carved in the stone. There's a quarry entrance on the left. Justus, Sextus, Severus, and little pictures, sometimes little matchstick chickens running all over, and odd little inscriptions too. The best inscription, and I always say it's my favourite, the best inscription says, "I didn't want to be here." And I can understand that. If you came from a climate where you had a nice warmish winter and you were posted to here, my goodness, it'd be like going to hell. Well, I don't know, hell's supposed to be hot, but anyway, it will be awful for them here. Now, the most famous fort along the line of the wall is the one ahead of us, high up on the hill to our right. It's called Housesteads. If you just look ahead to the right, you might just see it, and then it disappears behind the trees. Now, this is for 1,000 infantry soldiers from Belgium. Housesteads was called Vercovicium. It just means the strong hill of the people. And it's one of the most difficult forts to get to. Between the trees ahead to the right, two little valleys up and down. You have to go up and down first, and then a long haul up the hill, head to the right towards the museum buildings up there, the ticket office, and there's the fort. You see the rounded corners of the fort walls. You can see the fort walls. The civilian settlement were this side on the hillside. They were farming the hillside. You can see their cultivation terraces, and it's built onto the wall at the top. This is just the car park and the coach park, and the cafe and the toilets and the shop as well. But if you look to the right, you'll see the cultivation terraces there on the hillside below the fort, and even there's one or two of the civilian buildings still there below the fort, straight right now. People standing on the top next to the wall, which runs right away along that ridge, continues from the fort through the trees, and then continues along the volcanic ridge straight ahead. Now this volcanic ridge, it rises and falls every now and then. There's natural gaps, and we'll see some ahead very soon. Milking Gap, one of the first ones, and then the next gap sadly is the one where we had our beautiful sycamore tree called Sycamore Gap. The name will stay. Experts say the tree will eventually grow and throw up its own shoots, so we'll wait and see what happens. So we've lost that iconic image. If anybody wants to see an image of it, I've got it on my phone. And so we'll have a look, and then in the next gap too, you'll see a Mile Castle too. I also want to try and get your eyes on Vindolanda. Now Vindolanda is where the famous Roman writing tablets were found a long time ago now, but I'm going to tell you the story of them when we go down to the valley later on, and I want to try and get your eyes on this site. When we climb up the hill ahead of us, when we get to the very top, Michael slow a little bit, and I'll get you looking down to the left. It's there after we've had a look at that. We glance right to Sycamore Gap, where the tree was, and then in the next gap you'll see the Mile Castle too. So this is where you put your hands in the air and scream. Yeah, there you go. You get a second chance about a mile further on. This is Milking Gap here. So as we climb the hill ahead of us, when we get right to the very top, I'll get you to look down, Michael slow, if the traffic lets us, and we look down to the left, halfway down the plateau, halfway down the valley, a plateau on the, slightly back to the left, and you'll see the fort side there, and then my side you will get a glimpse first. Mike's side you have to wait a second or two later and look slightly back further left. So as we climb, start looking down to the left, halfway down, slightly back left. My side, looking back left, halfway down, you see it about now. Mike's side, people a little bit further back to the left, you should see it now. That's Vindolanda down there, the Roman fort. Now look right. And this was our iconic view of Sycamore Gap. You see the tree there now felled. That's it there, you see the wall coming up and down. That's it up there to the right. And then we see next to it the Mile Castle in the next gap. So sadly that's where we've lost our iconic image of Hadrian's Wall. In recent weeks, and actually in the last couple of years, we had a lot of displays of the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, and that made a wonderful photographic opportunity. I've got some pictures of it as well, but it's meant that people have been staying overnight up there, and that has angered the local farming community. Looking for reasons behind this, there might be a clue there. So we're going to take a turn up to a little way ahead of us, up to the right, in among the trees up there, head to the right. We're going to have a look at a wonderful viewpoint. If anybody wants to come for a little wander, bring their camera, we'll walk a couple of 100 yards to the wall, get some pictures. Great place names here. Look at this one on the left. Twice Brood. Lovely name, isn't it? Twice Brood. Well, we've got a Once Brood as well, where stories behind them. Was a youth hostel here. Twice Brood comes from when this road was being constructed by Wade's engineers. General Wade visited the local inn, sampled the beer. The beer apparently was so bad he ordered it to be re-brewed, so they called it a Twice Brood. But once Brood, there used to be a youth hostel where you see the new building in there. That's the visitor centre for the geology of the national park. Nothing to do with the Roman history, the geology. And there was a youth hostel in there. When it opened in the 1930s, the lady landowner made the opening address. She said she hoped the drinks taken in the establishment would be of the type only once brewed, not like that terrible place along the road which serves alcohol. So it was Twice Brewed. Looking back to the left, there's the Twice Brewed. They changed the name of the inn to the Twice Brewed. Oh, what's these? Looking at the birds. Any ornithologists among you? I think they are redstarts. Beautiful, kind of a thrush. Beautiful birds. Be looking for hawthorn trees to eat the berries. Now the ridges up here, the volcanic ridges of a natural fault, the Great Windsill, and the wall comes right away along the top, and then down this steep ridge to our right, turns at 90-degree angle, goes straight up. It's immediately right of us now and grass-topped. You know, not in good condition here. This is where walkers for the last 12 years have been walking on the top of it, and it's caused a lot of damage, and English Heritage are going to have to repair when they get the money, and they've got a lot of work to do to fix it. So keep an eye to the right at this wonderful view, and then Mike will do a bit of manoeuvring for us here. So look right, there's the wall to our right, grass topped, not in good nick. Look at the volcanic ridges there, what a view. So we'll let Mike do the best he can to get us turned. We have an arrangement here with the rangers because it's national park, a national park, and it's a car park. We can't go in with the coach, but Mike is going to have to back in and then turn. Now, does anybody want to come with me for this little walk to the corner for the best photographs? If you want to come with me, then get your mug, get your coat, get your cap. It'll be very strong wind here, so it will be colder as well for the wind chill. And don't worry if you're not coming. I will, when I get back on the coach, I'll tell you what you're looking at and where the wall runs. Over here. That's lovely. Come on, follow me through the gate. We're going off to where the wall disappears. It goes down the hill, and we'll have a look from there. So bring your cameras. interpretation from the coach. And so, when you walk, you see go back, and I'll show you on the coach. Look where the front are up there on the hill. Wall. People up there next to the frontier wall. You got one?
Is that Adrian's Wall? Is that part of Adrian's Wall? Adrian's Wall.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Like
that's
what?
it. With it's got the grass on it. Used to walk on it, can't we? So we said.
Yeah. So that's Adrian's Wall then.
That's Adrian's Wall, yeah.
Yeah. So this was part of it then. This was a volcanic.
This is volcanic movement to the earth into eruption.
Oh, yeah. They used that as part of the wall, do you think? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, that's-
yeah.
that-
That's
yeah.
what I like you say. There was no need to.
Oh, is that what it meant?
I think so.
Well, sometimes I can't
feel that way.
I can't keep up with.
No, with the Geordie accent.
Yeah, and you have to sort of translate to the way you think, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll better get back on the
There's some people on this coach.
Sorry?
There's some people on this coach who aren't. There's enough to do all this walking. You know. I think they should have took that into
I
account.
think they should have noted that on the.
Yeah,
on the-
because
when
they're
they was
wasting their money, aren't they? Because yeah.
We're all over. Well, I'm 81.
Really, yeah, not mature. Yeah, that pretty life, but yeah, you can be any age. Well, if you,
I mean, Tony, Colin there, he's 84.
never.
He is.
Wow. Gosh.
And he's more nimble than me, he is.
I'm 67 now. But I mean,
There you go then. Make the best of it because it flies by.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where my last...
No, but if you can't do much walking at any age, they should give you a warning on the trip, shouldn't they, really?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that I didn't expect to. I don't know. We're here we are.
Yeah.
We just booked this. I've never been to Northumberland or Newcastle in my life.
Yeah.
So
Just do it, don't you? Yeah.
I didn't anticipate.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what Cragside's going to be like tomorrow either.
No.
I'm not.
I should have just got the
I've not
inventors.
put.
Did he invent the light bulb or something like that?
Sorry,
Did he invent the light bulb?
I'm not
Or
sure.
something? I don't know.
I've not looked up anything about anything. So, but do you live around Tamworth area?
My partner lives in Tamworth. I'm from Erdington, Sutton Coldfield area.
Oh yeah.
But I come to Tamworth a lot.
Yeah, I don't live Tamworth. I live South Derbyshire.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
A small village, Linton.
Oh, I think I passed that.
On
Yeah.
just off the Treble 4, on your way to Burton on Trent.
I go to Burton a lot as well.
Yeah.
I think yeah.
There's a roundabout, and then you go by the big furniture tombs on your left when you go on the Treble 4 to Burton from Tamworth. And
So I passed it. I've seen.
Where
Where you say from? Derbyshire, was it?
Linton. Yeah.
I've seen signs saying you know in South. Derbyshire.
Yeah. No, we're all out just a minute, really.
I put my hands in my pocket looking for my car keys now. That's habit. It's windy out there, isn't it? Are we all back?
Oh, I need that to be too warm, but blimey, it's just...
1416, 1822.
Now, before I do some interpretation here, one of our lovely friends on our group here has just given me her phone. She felt moved to write a poem about the sycamore tree in Sycamore Gap. I'd like to read it out for you if you don't mind. She said she doesn't mind, but she couldn't read it herself. Her thoughts upset her. So I'm going to read it, and I hope you don't mind. It's called Feelings of the Sycamore Tree. Once a vision of beauty standing steadfast on the land. One dark night, while I was resting, I felt an evil hand. Its touch made me shiver. I did not know why, but soon it became clear that I was about to die. A roaring noise filled the air and my inner screams unheard. The minutes seemed like hours, while a cutting blade whirred. Slicing through my history, my trunk was filled with pain. My majestic presence gone forever, never to be seen again. For centuries I had given comfort to people far and near, special moments of remembrance, year upon year. Thank you for that, that's very nice. Now, I said I would give an interpretation from here and tell you what I was going to say. It's very windy out there and quite cold now, so I need to spend just a couple of moments just filling you in on some of the things I'm going to say, but to point out too, what we're looking to the left from here, this is called steel rig. Steel, as in the metal, is a local word which in our area means a little piece of land which juts out towards, in this case, a rig, a ridge. So there's the volcanic ridge ahead of you, and it's part of the Great Windsill, the natural volcanic fault. So this is Steel Rig viewpoint. To our left here, immediately left of the coach, we've got the remains of the North Ditch, quite apparent here, but it reappears because there was no need for a North Ditch in front of those volcanic ridges, so no need for a North Ditch there, but it reappears at the top of the hill here. Then in front of us to the left, and grass-topped, we have about 6 to 8 feet of frontier wall here in terrible condition. You can see as far as we can see it, then it turns right at 90 degrees down in the valley, and then English Heritage have begun their repairs up there. Then it goes right up the edge of the ridge up there. There's a farm wall nearest the edge. The frontier wall is on the inside of that farm wall, and it runs all the way along that ridge as far as you can see. Then this ridge begins to veer right and slowly dip down, as does the wall. It's all the way along the edge of it. There are some people, as far as you can see, off to the left of it, there's some people walking along there. Then you see the stretch of water there, and beyond the water some farm buildings. Now from the edge of the ridge, the frontier wall turns left, bears left. It goes up past the farm buildings, in between the two banks of trees, right to the top of the hill. Now can you see it? Have you got it? It's an amazing view, this. It's an incredible view. And of course some of the questions immediately being raised here, of course where we are now, we're in barbarian territory. The Roman Empire is on the other side of that frontier. So when this was built, Hadrian's biographer said Hadrian built the wall to separate the Romans from the barbarians, because they called everybody outside their territory barbarians. And so the tribes here to the north in particular, to the very north, were known as the Caledonies, the Caledonians. So then the Caledonians, and they were really troublesome. I mean, this is a lot way north, right away up into the highlands almost. And then they were joined by another very savage tribe called the Picts, and they were particularly bad. But then they were joined by another tribe which were really not so troublesome, that were from Ireland. They were called the Scotii. Scots. And so they then came across to what we know as Scotland, and they joined in. But if you ever hear anybody say this was built to keep the Scots out, you could tell them that's not so. They weren't here. They get blamed for a lot, not by me, but they were not here when this was all. But this was nothing to do with the Scots. It was never a boundary with Scotland. It was never a boundary other than the northern frontier of the Roman Empire. Incredible structure. So the Roman Empire on that side, and of course the wealth of the land, the wealth of the province is what the Romans wanted here. In this province of Britannia, in the southwest, the southwest, we had copper, we had tin, in places like Cornwall. Then you come up to Wales, you've got gold. Well, here in the hills over to the right, head to the right, those dark looming hills there in the clouds, they are the North Pennine Hills. And the North Pennine Hills have amazing amounts of lead seams. The Romans had done their surveys. They knew that the lead there had a very high silver content. In fact, it has got the highest silver content of any lead mined in this country. The Romans knew that. So they knew it was a good proposition to come here. That's why they came here. Apart from the fact that it was the narrowest strip of the province of Britannia. That's it. So when it stayed here until 410, till it was all abandoned. After Hadrian's time, another emperor, Antoninus Pius, moved slightly further north and built a frontier roughly between Edinburgh and Glasgow. It's called the Antonine Wall, and it was after the Antoninus, the emperor, and so it was built of turf and timber, but within 6 years was abandoned. So this was the actual frontier, the northern frontier of the Roman Empire, all a World Heritage Site. Do you like the views? Great, isn't it? I just wish I could see. I just wish it was clear. I'm going to get myself down, and then it's homework time. Straight down across here. Now, I said I would ask you to consider how long you thought it might take to build this frontier system. 73 miles of the frontier from east to west. 3 legions, that's about 15,000 men. So 21 foot high wall, 10 feet thick. The north ditch, the south ditch, 17 forts. A mile castle every mile, 2 lookout towers, 34 feet high. Between every mile castle. So, any guesses? Anybody like to guess how long it would take to build? You don't have an educated guess. Anybody? No?
35 years.
7 did somebody say? I think you get the contract for that. Anybody else? No? 30? Yeah? Together. Well, do you think we could do it now in 7 years? Well, it's about spot on, because the Romans built it in 6 to 8 years, and that was to a plan B. And we couldn't do it now because we've got things like health and safety, we've got planning permissions, all of those things, as well as the cost. So we just couldn't do it. And so it was to a plan B, because Emperor Hadrian visited when construction was underway, and he reviewed the plan. He stayed at Vindolanda. They built him a new house at Vindolanda, a very nice house, which the archaeologists have dug up. And so he visited, looked at it, and the plan A had been not to have forts on the wall. And he said, no, that would be a military mistake. Get forts built on the wall, and that took it to 6 to 8 years. Now, very quick few words about the centre on the right here. We're going straight on. This is part of the Northumberland National Park. This is what is called a landscape centre. It's nothing to do with the Roman history. This is to do with the geology of the national park. And in this case, the Great Windsill, the volcanic ridges here. So it's a nice place, but it has no link with the Roman history in any way whatsoever. The fort sites along here, like Vindolanda, like Chester's, like others, all do that job. It has a modern youth hostel there too. When I was a young lad, we used to cycle and go to youth hostels. We used to do chores and things like that. It's like a 4-star hotel in there. They've got, yes, ensuite rooms and everything. Lovely restaurant. You don't have to do chores in the morning. It's amazing. So anyway, we'll continue. We're headed down at the Tyne Valley in a moment. We're going to go right past the entrance road to Vindolanda Roman fort. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vindolanda and mostly about the writing tablets. Not too much because we're not going, but it's important that you can fit it in with the frontier system. This road ahead of us, where you see the line of pine trees, this is the entrance to the site. When we pass it, look left, you'll see how straight it is. It is the actual line of the Roman road of Staingate, which came from Corbridge to Carlisle. And the farm track on the right is the continuation of it. So look left, that's the route of Staingate. And there are 2 Roman mile castles there. Not mile castles, milestone markers. One is half height, is broken off, but the other is to its full height, and it's the only Roman mile marker in the country in its original location to its full height. It's really historic. So that's the entrance road to Vindolanda. Vindolanda is different to other forts. It's not English heritage, it's not National Trust, it's private. It's a private Vindolanda Trust, which was started by the landowner. Excavations here started more than 50 years ago. A local family called the Burley family, very, very eminent professors, archaeologists, really wonderful people. And they started with their friends digging here. The landowner was inspired by their enthusiasm and what they were finding, and she created the Vindolanda Trust. She gave them the land, the landscape, and another site further west called Carvoran, which is the site of the Roman Army Museum now. And so that is what happened, that's how it came about. And the Burley family was the family who, with their friends, were excavating. They found so many things. Eventually, they built a couple of small wooden huts to house the finds. People began to visit. The original entrance was on the east side of the fort. This is the west side of the fort we've just seen. And people used to come and visit. So then, in due course, they got help from English Heritage and the government to build an actual museum. So it's a wonderful site. Archaeologists now come here in Easter every year, and they work right to the end of September digging on the site. So digging has been going on for 50 years or more. They have found so much here. This site, Vindolanda, has the biggest single collection of Roman leatherwork anywhere in the world. Massive amounts of shoes, boots, sandals, all clothing, tents, all kinds of stuff. It's incredible. But the most famous stuff found here are the Vindolanda Roman writing tablets. Has anybody heard of them before? If you haven't, well, when you go down to the British Museum, the first finds there are housed in the Romana British Galleries. Do go and have a look. They were voted the greatest treasure in the British Museum a number of years ago, and that's saying something. So do go and have a look. How did they come about? The head of the Burley family was a man called Robin Burley. I knew Robin very well. He was a great help to me. He was a fantastic guy and such a big help on Roman history, the stories of what happened. He was the man who found the first writing tablets. And so he told me the story. He was digging outside of the ditch, and he was lifting what he thought was a big lump of peat into his wheelbarrow, and it slipped, it moved, and it revealed to him thin slivers of wood with what looked like writing. So he hurriedly parcelled them up, rushed across to Newcastle University, looked at them under infrared conditions and determined that's exactly what they were. So he then went straight down to the British Museum, handed them over, they took it over, they cleaned them up, they conserved them, they preserved them, and then they brought specialists in from Oxford University, and they did the translation and interpretation of these tablets. So just what were they? Well, talking to Rob and he told me, he said they were letters. Very thin slivers of wood, usually birch or beech, about the size of a 6x4 postcard. If you take that postcard, fold it in half. That was the kind of technique they used. And so they then wrote straight onto the thin wood, and they used a stylus with ink, and they wrote onto the wood, but sometimes they put a thin coating of wax and they would inscribe in the wax. Then it folded together, then they write on one side who it was to, and then on the other side who it was from. Do you recognise it? A bit like envelopes, you know, that we used to do. So, right, well, they were letters, tiny, tiny, thin slivers of wood. And then, well, if they had letters, then they must have had a postal system, and Robin explained to me, yes, they did. They had a Pony Express style of delivering letters. Riders going from fort to fort to fort, carrying letters in saddlebags, tiny, tiny little wooden pieces of wood with writing on. Amazing stuff. Now, if you're interested, there's a great site online. Do a search on Vindelander Roman writing tablets, and there you will see a site managed by Oxford University, and when you look at it, they have every single tablet found with photographs of it. And these are tiny things. Some of them are just fragments as well, tiny things, and then the interpretation, translation of them. So it's fascinating. And some of the things, Robin Burley himself wrote a book called The Vindelander Roman Writing Tablets by Robin Burley. Have a look for that in your library if you're interested. It's amazing. Great guy. He sadly died a few years ago, but his son Andrew has taken over as Director of Excavations on the site. So they're closed up for the season now, but the archaeologists will be back next Easter. So have a look at those stories. Wonderful stuff. Just briefly, some of the stuff that's come out of it. Perhaps the most famous was a birthday party invitation, and the information that came from the tablet. The invitation was from the sister of the commanding officer of Vindelander Fort. Her sister was writing the birthday invitation to her sister, saying, please come and help me celebrate my birthday, with her husband, who was the commander of a nearby fort. So her sister, the commander of Vindelander, her sister was married to a commander of another fort nearby. Birthday party invitations. The best one I liked, me personally, is a mother writing a letter to her son, and she said, I've sent you a parcel. I've sent you some socks and underpants. Which is quite normal, but it does tell you something that the Romans wore socks. Socks have been found in the excavations. They're different to ours. They're tubular, they've got no toes, so they must have tucked the things in under their toes, in their boots and their sandals, whatever. So they did not have bare feet up here. They never found any underpants yet, but I think they're holding. So. And then the quartermaster's letters, big long string, big list. He strung these things together, tied them together, a bit like a concertina postcard if you think of it that way. Great long list of materials to be reordered, but his little postscripts, his own little notes at the bottom that I love, that say, like a PS, while you were there, check if my swan nets are repaired. You know, it's like people talking to you from 2,000 years ago. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. So do have a look if you're interested. So now we are in the South Tyne Valley. The River South Tyne is on our right, you'll see it in a second. And we're headed towards Hexham, so I'm going to let you enjoy the landscape of the scenery as we head toward Hexham. And when we get nearer to Hexham, I will come back to you and tell you all about Hexham. And what we're going to do is drop you off outside the Abbey, and then that's where we will pick you up. So I will tell you the departure time when we're ready. This evening I want to get you back to the city in good time tonight, because there are going to be, I have been warned, there are going to be traffic problems. Some of the main roads are going to close, so it means the traffic problems will be worse in other places. So I want to beat that rush and get you back in good time to the hotel, safely tucked in, away from the chaos in the town. So I'll come back to you when we get nearer to Hexham. Now we're just getting close now to our turn into Hexham, the west end of Hexham, so well, let me tell you the story of Hexham itself. Its story actually goes back, this wonderful market town, voted the best market town in Britain a few years ago. It's a lovely market town. Its history goes right back to the 7th century when its abbey church was built by Wilfrid, later St. Wilfrid. Wilfrid was trained as a monk on Lindisfarne, and as a young monk he went to Rome, and he was inspired by all things Roman, religion, services, buildings, all kinds of traditions. Came back inspired to do something about it and build a church in the Roman style, i.e. in stone. So realising this as he came back, we had no skills like that. He brought the necessary skills from Gaul with him on the way back, and so he brought stonemasons, he brought glaziers and others with him. And building in Roman style meant stone, so guess where they got the stone from? They got it from Corbridge Roman Fort. And so his first church was built, a beautiful big Roman church style. When it was finished, it was described as the finest church west of the Alps. Now it became a place of great pilgrimage because he also brought relics of St. Andrew, and he built a crypt under his church to house those relics. So where you get places of pilgrimage, then markets usually grew up, and that's when the marketplace in Hexham first grew up, right from that time, and still going today. And so built this beautiful church, but then a pilgrim of a different kind came in, the Vikings, and the Vikings destroyed his church, leaving the crypt lying underneath rubble, and it was forgotten about for a few hundred years. The church was then rebuilt in the late 11th, early 12th century. Monks sent up from York to refound a monastery and rebuild, but then sadly in came William Wallace. William Wallace destroyed the west end of the new church, set fire to the roof of the rest, did a lot of damage. So another layer of rubble lying over the Viking destruction, and then covering the crypt, and so it was that what the locals decided to do, and the monks then, with their help, to build a wall up. So it became a T-shaped church, the crossing in two transepts, the choir and the chancel, right up to the altar. And it stayed that way when the dissolution of the monasteries occurred, and it became a parish church. And then in 1750, this big wall that was built up to bar off the ruins of the previous church. They sent engineers down to underpin it, and they strengthened it, but they discovered the tunnels leading into the crypt. So they cleared it all out, they cleaned the crypt out, and they decided they needed to finish the nave, which they then instigated. It took a long time and a lot of money, but they finished it by 1906. So what you have is a beautiful church with Saxon remains and a very, very unique crypt, one of only two of its kind, which may well be open today if they've got stewards. And so you can get a chance. Beautiful church too, with lots of Romanesque, Norman, early English Gothic architecture, and a new nave in that style, early English Gothic. Beautiful church. Now, today and for the next few weeks, they have an exhibition on in this church. It's called the Museum of the Moon, by an artist called Luke Jerram. 6 meter wide, like big ball of the moon, using NASA imagery to depict the exact surface of the moon, and it's placed in the crossings, and they have accompanying music and lighting, and it's absolutely fascinating. And the Abbey Church currently, while this is on, has an entrance fee of £3 to get in. If you just want to go into the visitor centre or the cafe, then you can get there without incurring any charge. But if you want to go in and have a general look around the Abbey, you will need to pay. There is always a donation box anyway, but with this exhibition they are actually making a charge of £3. The entrance is at the cloister end. I'll show you where. Now, Hexham itself, lots of lovely places to eat and drink, and as you go down, we're going to turn left down to our drop-off point, which is right outside the Abbey. and that's where we will pick you up. So I'll tell you the departure time in a minute. So we're going to give plenty of time to have a wander around Hexham. It's all on the level, so there's lots of places to eat and drink. There's cafes down here as we go down, like here over to the right hand side. Queen's Hall ahead of us on the right, nice cafes in there, and good loos in there in Queen's Hall on the right, this building in front of us on the right. And here's the Abbey ahead of us on the left. There's even a Wetherspoons in Hexham. I'll show you where, tell you where in a minute. And off to the left you see where the grass cloister area is, the entrance door there, the archway, that's where the entrance is currently. If you want to go in and go and visit the Museum of the Moon, that's the entrance door there. So the marketplace is in front of us. Various places. The Wetherspoons, by the way, is beyond. There's a green shop overlooking the marketplace which is to let now. Wetherspoons is in the old cinema. It's behind there. Two little streets off on the right hand corner called 4th Street FORE, and on the right also where the little low-level shambles building, that's where Hexham Butchers worked, there's a watch and clock repair shop, and it has a little open archway which goes into St Mary's Chair. That's Hexham's oldest street. Little cafes up there too, lovely bookshop, Codrido Books. Cafes around, nice pub too. Off to the left down the lane, the heart of Northumberland, the nicest one for food and drinks in Hexham. So we have the Abbey, there's a shop here too. The Abbey has the visitor centre on its own refectory cafe, which is all homemade stuff, so well worth a visit. Now we're going to be leaving here, ready to leave at 3 o'clock. Now we're going to come up a little bit earlier in case anybody's feeling tired, needs to get off the coach. But as soon as everybody's on, then we'll head off and go down to back to Newcastle. So we've got to go away and park, but we'll be back to pick you up later. All right, so we'll be ready to leave by 3 o'clock. Okay, enjoy your time. I'll be at the front of the coach if you've got any questions.